Hello, this is Derek here again. In the last video, we have gone over how to add different types of character controls. One is the first-person controller, and the other one is the third-person controller. You might notice that we are missing the most common one, a fly-through camera. With that, you can go to see places that your character couldn't because of the gravity, so it is very useful. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your own fly-through controller. It is based on the Unity standard assets that we downloaded in the last video. So if you haven't watched it yet, please go and watch it now, as what we're doing now is an extension of that video. First, we will need to disable all the character controllers object from the scene. And then we can create a new game object called fly-through camera to be the parents of all the objects of our fly-through controller. Let's create a child game object and call it fly-through player, where this object will contain all the scripts and components that we're going to add or create later on. Now, let's create one more child game object under the new game object that we just created before. Call it player camera root. And I will make sure all the child objects to reset all the position, rotation, and scale under transform. Next, we will duplicate the player follow camera from the first person controller and move it under the fly-through camera object. And select that object. In the inspector window, drag the player camera root object that you just created into the follow field. And we will set a transform just to do a bit of housekeeping for the project. We also need to duplicate the main camera object from the first person controller and move it under the same fly-through camera object. Next, we will select the fly-through player object, and under the inspector window, we will add the player input component. This will assign your input and register you as a player, so you can have control in the scene. Assign the player input assets into the input field. This was downloaded from the starter asset from the asset store. It is time to get our hands on with some scripting. Make sure the same game object is selected, which is the fly-through player. And at the bottom of the inspector, click on the Add button. And go to the last option where it says New Script. Name the script as fly-through camera. Make sure there's no space in between. And hit Create and Add. This will create and add the script for your project. And double-click the script will open the default scripting software. In my case, I'm using Rider. Yours could be Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, etc. As we are using most of the code from the first-person controller script, it is better to open it as well to dock it side by side with the fly-through camera script. This makes it easier for us to copy and paste the code that we need. Before we start, we need to put using starter assets on the top, as we will be referencing to some of the components that the starter assets are using. Let's copy the first variables under the header player, that is move speed, spin speed, rotation speed, and speed change rate. Then we will copy all the variables under the Cinemachine, that is the Cinemachine camera target, top clamp, bottom clamp, and last is the underscore Cinemachine target pitch. Next, we will copy the two variables under player, which is underscore speed and underscore rotation velocity. Last, we will copy underscore input, underscore main camera, and underscore threshold. Now, we don't need all the function from the first-person controller script, and we also don't need all the content from each function. So I'm going to copy the functions that we need from the first-person controller script, and then remove the lines that we don't need. First, let's copy and paste our wake function, and we don't need to change anything from here. Next, copy the start function, but this time we will need to remove the line where it says _controller equals get component character controller, and the last two lines about jumping and falling. Since this is a fly-through camera, we don't need to worry about jumping or falling, and certainly we don't need to use the character controller. Then, we copy the update function and paste it across. We will need to remove the jump and gravity and ground check functions. This is because we don't need to do any jumping or check if the camera is touching the ground. We then copy and paste the late update function, and we can just leave it as it is. Same with the camera rotation functions. It can stay exactly the same. Also copy the move function across, and we just need to change the last part of the function. And where it says input direction, remove everything after the equal sign and put down the following: _main_camera.transform.right times _input.move.x plus _main_camera.transform.forward times _input.move.y. And we remove the player based on the input. On the next line, put down transform.position plus an equal sign, input direction.normalized times _speed, and then times time.delta time. At last, we will copy the clamp angle function across. And I have also forgotten to change the character velocity into something else. We need to change it into target speed, which is defined in line 84, and then save the script. Go back into Unity and add the last component on the fly-through player game object, which is called the starter access input. At last, we need to drag the player camera root object to the Cinemachine camera target. Now you have a fly-through camera that you can fly through your model. This is all I have got for you today. I hope you enjoy it. I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye bye.